few years ago, there was a global analyst who made a survey of the various nations throughout the world who were involved in space. And it surprises a lot of people that when you actually add up the nations most likely to return a flag to the moon, the nations most likely are, not surprisingly, the United States, Russia, China, and India. But in fifth place in that list, you'd be amazed, it's the Isle of Man. When we look back historically at the Isle of Man, there's lots and lots of links to the space industry. We can look back at earlier astronomical connections, and there's lots and lots of those. We can go back to 1957, when the very first Sputnik was launched in October 1957. Who would have thought that only a month later, when the second satellite was launched, Sputnik 2, the one that famously carried the dog Laika, it was filmed crossing Ramsey. More recently, developments in space have included the fact that the Excalibur-Almaz project is based in the Isle of Man. 2 Russian space stations were imported into the island by this company called Excalibur-Almaz. And Excalibur-Almaz, led by a chap called Art Dula, he brought along this idea of there was a gap in the market, a real big gap. There's no commercial spacecraft flying at the moment, and the shuttle has stopped flying. So Art Dula saw an opportunity to establish Excalibur-Almaz using previously flown spacecraft which had been returned to Russia, refurbished, and then could be flown into space carrying fare-paying passengers with probably a professional astronaut or cosmonaut as well. And those space stations are located at Derby here, and Excalibur-Almaz only last year, in June 2012, announced that instead of just going into Earth orbit, they were going to use the space stations, fit them with an engine, and actually fire them off to the moon. They wouldn't go into orbit around the moon, but they would actually go around the moon and come back on what they call a free return trajectory back to the Earth, into orbit around the Earth, where they'd be ferried back down to the Earth. If you want to do that, it's dead cheap. It's only $100 million a ticket. People think, why has the Isle of Man got such a hold on and such an interest in the commercialization of space? And the answer to that question is exactly that. It's the commercialization. We have 2 of the world's biggest satellite companies, or one of the world's leading satellite companies, SES, have got offices in Finch Road, and they actually sponsor the Zero TT. They launch satellites, and for every bit of data that is transmitted to and from that satellite, an amount of money goes to the company. And yes, you've guessed it, if a satellite happens to be placed in orbit in a slot that is leased to the Isle of Man government, which has a right as an independent nation to own, those licenses mean that whenever anybody sends any data to or from that satellite, then the Isle of Man government receives some funds.
The space industry in the Isle of Man, it has seen a kind of, increase over the past few years. It's not just a company like ourselves, but there's other companies here. But the interest and the economy is starting to grow through the space industry, and the associated industries around that, like the insurance, the finance sector, the manufacturing. So it's really trying to garner all of those together.
And as a result of that, we're now seeing the benefits coming to the Manx Exchequer from these industries. They estimate only a few weeks ago was publicised that 1% of the island's GDP, gross domestic product, was coming from spaceborne industry. I retired from Manx National Heritage in December 2012, having done various astronomical things with them, and I realised that one of the last things I did for Manx National Heritage was actually something that was identified as a tourism initiative by the Isle of Man government, which is what we call dark skies tourism. And dark skies tourism is basically an appreciation of the fact that there are areas of the world where the skies are uniquely dark. Now yes, we know we have cloud cover problems in the Isle of Man, but so does the whole of Northern Europe. So what's been identified now is there are places in the British Isles where the skies are uniquely very, very dark. If I said to you, have you ever seen the Milky Way? Most people in the Isle of Man, if they've not seen it, they don't realise they've seen it, because it is very easily and very clear to see, because our skies are of such good quality. We've recognised this now, and before I left Manx National Heritage, we actually had 7 sites nominated for dark skies status. And that was done last year, and the announcement was made in the British press in October 2012, about the 7 sites scattered around the island. I am actively employed now trying to get another 13 sites nominated for dark sky status. And then the next step is to try and get even more sites and more of the island recognised as a dark skies place. The Isle of Man is a great place to live. It's got great opportunities, and I really think the space industry and the astronomy industry have got a great part to play in it.